This is Tom Doody, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Doody in a Google search from my site. I'll read some text from Marcus Feldenkirchen. He is a media pro. Posted this through his association to Spiegel, Spiegel.com. Spiegel.com is a sister org to Der Spiegel. Spiegel.com has been around for a decade or so, Der Spiegel for a half century or so, and Spiegel.com is an online extension of Der Spiegel. Through multiple sources, Spiegel is credited for excellent investigative journalism. I was particularly struck by this text of Marcus Feldenkirchen, and I have read this in a Google Hangout in a public setting more than 3 times. I'm not yet in the double digits. I'll go right to the words of Marcus Feldenkirchen. I will be clear when I end the words of Marcus and begin the words of Tom Doody. I'll just have some comments after explaining where I am, why, and what is my purpose. Confronting the past, America finally turns its attention to rampant racism. The United States excels at dealing with injustices of other countries. They often help other countries to cope with their shameful past. Germany will always be grateful to the United States for sending American troops across the Atlantic to defeat the Nazis, and for insisting that Germans be held accountable for the crimes they committed. The Nuremberg trials gave Germans an opportunity to own up to what they had done. They could no longer deny it. The U.S. has been less successful, however, in conducting the same process when addressing the dark parts of its own past. This includes its treatment of Native Americans who were brutally repressed or even killed in order to clear the way for Western expansion. They were betrayed, neglected, disrespected. Today they live on reservations in some of the saddest living conditions the civilized world has to offer. Americans seem even more forgetful when it comes to the history of blacks who were once snatched from their homes, forced into ship galleys, and kept like animals for centuries. Even after the end of the Civil War and the official abolishment of slavery, it took hundreds, another hundred years before the discriminatory racial laws were finally officially lifted. To this day, the U.S. has never issued a formal apology, nor any attempt at redress, let alone compensation. Instead, many patterns of industrialized racism still exist. When a clear break from the past is not made, it may be difficult for people to part with their old ways of thinking. Indeed, not only do Americans continue to hold twisted notions of the superiority of whites, but these beliefs often go unchallenged. Imagine 150 years have passed since the American Civil War has ended. And not only has a national debate begun, and only now has a national debate begun over whether some symbols of the South are appropriate. 9 black people had to die in Charleston, executed by a white Nazi, adorned with the Confederate flag and other symbols of alleged white supremacy. It seems that there was never a thought given to the fact that the South went to war against the North partly to defend their right to continue to hold blacks like animals. to put them in chains, beat them when they were down. How is it that for many politicians and American citizens, the flag is now only become a little embarrassing? Why are people only now asking whether it's really a good idea to name streets and public areas after the greatest generals in the fight for slavery? They may have been brave soldiers, but if they were fighting for a despicable cause, they should not have monuments built in their honor. Unless, of course, we believe what they stand for is not really so reprehensible. On the Mall in Washington, and not somewhere in Germany, one can find one of the best and most poignant Holocaust museums in the world. Yet similarly impressive museums dedicated to the history of slavery, to racist policies throughout American history, or to the treatment of Native Americans are missing. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, is enshrined in a mall and the monument fit for a deity. The fact that Jefferson was also a brutal slave owner is something one only learns in his former estate in Monticello. Perhaps not surprisingly, this fact is not prominently displayed. To date, the American treatments of its own dark past are so ignorantly passive, so intentionally vague, so in denial, it begs to question, do the majority of Americans feel any guilt or acknowledgement, any wrongdoing toward blacks and Native Americans? Every nation has dark spots in its past, and nowhere are those spots darker than in Germany. However, the greatest of a country is reflected in how it deals with the past and whether it critically examines it. In this respect, the United States is not the great nation it believes itself to be. This is the end of text by Marcus Feldenkirchen, posted on Spiegel.com, June 26, 2015. This is the beginning of comments by Tom Doody. I'll explain where I am, why, what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm in West New York. This traffic is on Bergen Line Avenue, the intersection of Bergen Line. So the traffic is both. You can see where my camera is directed. The traffic is both Bergen Line. That bus was just on Bergen Line going southbound. And the crossing traffic is on 60th. That bus, the 181, was on Bergen Line going southbound. And the cross traffic is at 60th. I did catch the attention, it seems, of a mother who's standing in front of her stroller and kind of wondering what I'm doing. And I think she sort of, by chance, paused in the view of this video. My purpose is to repeat this exercise of reciting the text of Marcus Feldenkirchen. My motivation is purely emotional, supported by logic, but my motivation is purely emotional. When I first saw this text, I read it. I was struck by what Marcus had said. I also read it in a setting similar to the one I am in today, a different state on the other side of the Hudson River and also subterranean below ground in the subways. And something struck me that I had done something important. I then had the opportunity to read this on July 4th, and I was struggling with reciting the words so critical of my country on the nation's birthday. And on that audio that I did on July 4th, something happened again emotionally that said what I was doing is important. What I was doing was absolutely relevant for the nation's birthday. And I can't say it better than Marcus said it himself, which is the greatest of a country is reflected in how it deals with its past and whether it critically examines it. You know, I'm not in the camp of not attempting on this exercise, though I agree with Marcus. My purpose does not go that big, examining shortcomings of my country. Instead, it's just like emotional calisthenics. It says, stand out here, proud to be an American, in America, in a public setting. Reciting some text is highly critical, very diplomatically stated, though highly critical, of my country. So examining is not part of it, but dealing with the past in terms of emotion, Now, I am tired of having reasons to complain about the treatment of blacks. I'm tired of everyone having reasons to complain about the treatment of blacks. Sandra Bland is dead. She died, whether by murder or her own hands, is in being investigated in a prison, in a jail cell in Texas. A couple of weeks ago, earlier this month, I was on vacation. The story didn't get my attention until yesterday. The authorities of Texas, the Texas justice that imprisoned her, released the dash cam, and it is clear, crystal clear, that that video has been edited. If that video was being offered as evidence in a criminal prosecution, that video would be a digital, conclusive evidence of obstruction of justice. Now, the British, I like the British phrase better for obstruction to, they call it something like perverting the course of justice. Why would they do it? Why would they try to dupe the public? What are they hiding? You know, there's also evidence that Sandra Bland was depressed, and given the circumstances, she may have committed suicide. Now, why a person in a jail? I've been to jail myself somewhat recently, in the last half decade. And I didn't have the opportunity to commit suicide that I know of. And a long time in a jail cell, I may have figured it out, but doggone it, she did it the morning of her first night of incarceration. And she might have done that. She may have committed suicide. She may have not have been murdered. However, given the contentious nature of her arrest and death, for the authorities in Texas to release an edited video and present it in such a way that it's supposed the public would believe it is a transparent, earnest effort to be for disclosure. In other words, this death is not racist motivated, and we are disclosing, we are giving the same evidence that we have. But they didn't. Pieces of that video have been chopped. The audio and the video don't seem to be in sync. There's a lot of problems with that video. And Sandra Bland is dead. A fact that can't be reversed. So what is my purpose? The simplest form, my purpose is to do repetitively something that feels good. And it is becoming less and less of a mystery each time I do it. As a father, if I wanted my sons or daughter to do something, I might do it myself first. I remember negotiating with them over their chores and bargaining and doing their chores for them in exchange for something else. So I would do their chore a series of days before they took it back. A process that I sort of remember as being effective, but the details are distant, like by a decade or more, decade and a half. So why does that relate to this? I am certainly putting this process forward, suggesting, inviting someone else to do the same thing. I claim it feels important. Try it yourself. Listeners, try it yourself. See if I'm wrong. If your experience is anywhere near what mine is, I think you'll feel you've done something, a personal step to come to terms with struggles this country has. And quite honestly, struggles this country should not have. There's a lot of problems we don't have that, if proper attention were given, we could certainly noticeably reduce, better yet, eradicate racism. But in my lifetime, even though our president is black and I voted for him twice and am proud to do that, there is much evidence to say that I live in a racially divided country. Those racial divisions are comparable to what it was in my childhood. I'm tired of it. I wish we were not so divided. And as Martin Luther King says, we should judge people on the content of their character and not on the color of their skin. It's best, and it's long overdue in this country. An icon of liberty, an icon of democracy, and an icon of freedom. And we've got some problems. And Marcus articulates some of them with striking clarity. From West New York, New Jersey, 60th and Bergen Line, New Jersey, near the Lincoln Tunnel. This has been Tom Doody, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Doody in a Google search for my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, a restful night's sleep. Ciao.